Hi and welcome back to my channel. We have the famous Tia here and we have my wonderful mum. We'll say her name is Anne. We won't say her name is Anne. Her name is Anne. So today's video, we are, as you probably see by the title, we're going back in time. We worked out probably about 30 years to discuss pre-diagnosis sort of MS symptoms and what it's like to go through it, what it's like to go through it personally, and what it's like to go through it as a family. So we're just going to have a conversation and just do some reminiscing, and hopefully this might help anyone who is going through this as well, that it's, yes, it changes your life, but it's not the end of your life. So there we go. We'll take it from there.
It's the beginning of a new one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've already had this chat today, haven't we? Sort of
to try and remember everything.
It's not just me that gets brain fog.
Dementia. No, eventually.
No, it's not going to happen.
No, hopefully not.
It won't. But yeah, so we worked out that I was probably around 23, 24, I think, when I was diagnosed.
Yes.
So the symptoms for me probably started early 20s. I remember going with some of my very good friends, Dave and Ferg, you know who you are if you're watching this. We went to Motorbike Grand Prix in Donington. I remember leaning against a surface in a service station type cafe and thinking I burnt my back on a radiator, and my friend touched the radiator and said it's not even on, and then that's when I noticed sort of this patch area on my back that was just felt wrong. I had feeling it wasn't totally numb, but it just didn't feel right. So that's one of my earliest memories, is these sort of, we'll call them numb patches, that then spread and ended up being my whole left side. So what's your memories and what do you...
Yes, I do recollect probably about 3 years before we knew there was something seriously wrong. Each year we thought you had glandular fever, and part of the symptoms then were this kind of vertigo and odd sensations, which was all very strange. But you were told you had glandular fever, and
I got told that a lot. I don't think I've actually ever had glandular fever. Yeah, I remember that because I remember my 21st birthday, which was a write-off. I spent it curled up on a sofa being very, very ill. And I think that was one of the times they thought I had glandular fever. So yes, it's for some reason it's one of the misdiagnoses. I hear a lot of people say that they were told they had glandular fever, and it turns out it was early MS symptoms. So not saying all glandular fever is not glandular fever, but sometimes if you think there's more to it, get a second opinion. I didn't get a second opinion at the time. I don't think we
until a little later.
Until a bit later.
As your symptoms progressed and became more, well, you couldn't ignore them anymore.
Yeah. I remember vertigo in standing at the, my parents' old kitchen had a peninsula, and I remember standing at the peninsula and looking at a friend in the sort of about 10 yards, 10, 15 yards away. Meters, feet. Oh, whatever, measure. They were a little way away from me in the house.
Mammoth kitchen.
And they were watching me, and I felt as though I was stood there doing this. And it turns out I actually was stood there doing that, but I wasn't doing it. My body was doing it. And I remember them feeling violently sick. That's an experience I do remember, pre-diagnosis of vertigo. Also waking up, laying down as normal, and feeling violently ill. And then anytime I tried to lie flat, even with a pillow flat like you would in bed. I couldn't. I would be violently sick if I tried to lie down. And not having a clue what was going on. It's, it made no sense to me. We did see a doctor about various things, I think, back then, but I wasn't. I think it was a good few years before they.
Yes, it was only when you kind of looked as though you'd had a stroke that you were really taken seriously.
Yes, do you remember how that went?
One of my memories is you waking up and I came into your room and you smiled, but only part of your face smiled, and I thought you'd had a stroke because the whole of one side just didn't respond. And I think that happened a couple of times, and at that point, well, it was unavoidable. The doctor couldn't ignore that there was
something's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't remember that particular instance. I remember another time that I was aware that something wasn't right with my face, and I kept saying to you, something's not right, and you couldn't see anything. But we used to work together, and we were at work, and I laughed at something, and I just remember my mum's face being horrified because you could have drawn a line down my face and the entire left side was paralysed. So this side would be laughing, but that side there was nothing.
And you couldn't walk in a straight line either.
No, I couldn't.
And you hadn't had a drink.
And no, that's one of the things that you do learn with MS, that people do sometimes look at you like you're drunk at 7 o'clock in the morning, because you do walk funny sometimes. But at this time, we had no idea. I remember walking. I used to work at the local leisure centre, which was about half a mile, three-quarters, walk in the morning. So,
but I walked with you because I was afraid you would topple over into the road.
Yep.
For a while.
Because I was very unsteady on my feet, and I did look drunk, and I promise you I wasn't. But yeah, so for us, sort of the main early symptoms literally were the numb, desensitized patches, the legs not working properly, vertigo.
I think you felt there was no, if I touched your skin, you couldn't really feel it being touched either on your left-hand side.
Again, yeah, it was very, for me, left side. Pretty much everything was on the left-hand side. The facial paralysis, we had, it was near Christmas. We had a set of my grandparents, my father's parents were coming round, and some family friends. I remember this a little bit, but I think my brain's gone, nah, we don't want to remember that. My mum remembers it a lot more.
Yes, because you were showing all the symptoms of being completely drunk. And so we decided, rather than
tell anyone, because we didn't know, we had nothing to tell. We didn't know anything at that stage.
We just decided that you were drunk.
We you
got well and truly told off by your grandpa.
I could have won an Oscar for my performance that day, because I was not touching alcohol. I was pretending that I'd had far too much for the entire day at Christmas, because we had nothing to tell anyone, because at that stage we had no idea what was wrong with me. No one had been able to tell us what was wrong with me. We were, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'd never even heard of multiple sclerosis at that stage. So I hadn't, Google wasn't a thing.
No, it wasn't.
So I hadn't done any research. I wouldn't have had a clue where to look for anything.
I had bought some books by that, because my sister-in-law was a doctor, and
I didn't know Mum had been
and we
talking
had
to my
been
aunt.
discussing options and possibilities at that point. So I think I had a good idea of, certainly there was something neurological that was a problem. But we tried to keep it light-hearted that day. I remember I failed at one point and ran to the loo, and another friend followed me in, and he said, "Pull yourself together, woman. You can't be a weakling." So
yeah, certain family friends knew what was going on, because if you were spending any time with me, it was obvious something was wrong. But yeah, we didn't know what. So I sympathise with anyone going through it, because it is very frustrating. You do start questioning.
But it does make you stronger. I mean, it has.
Does.
I mean, you're about as tough as an old boot.
She means that in the best possible way.
No.
But yeah, I would say, if you are in a situation where you're starting to think, or maybe you've done some Google, honestly, I would not recommend Googling the symptoms and things.
Or buying lots of books. Not a good idea.
No, because you do start thinking the worst, and even if you do eventually get diagnosed with MS, it is not the end of the world. It really isn't. They're coming along with treatments all the time, but also you may hear symptoms, but you may never get them. So don't Google, and don't think the worst, and just ask your doctor. Push to see a neurologist, and
if you have a friend who's going through it, the more support and humour you can bring to them, the better.
Always. As I always say, I might not have my health, but I definitely have my sense of humour.
Oh, yes.
So I really hope this helps some people. I hope it maybe answers a few questions, or just gives you a little bit of comfort to know that you just keep going. So we'll see you in the next one, when we talk about diagnosis. So thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.